Hey, what's up? Red Dirt Outdoorsman here with the third part of the series on the Second Amendment and firearm. This is to help us combat what we see in the media, and it's getting vicious. There are people who are now wanting to repeal the Second Amendment. I had a lot of students that, when I was teaching this series, did not know that you could have amendments taken away. Uh, but I brought up prohibition and then the repeal of prohibition. If you get enough votes, you can change the Bill of Rights. You can change constitutional amendments. That's why when it's time to vote for people, see what their stances are, vote for them. Every vote does matter. We had a Democrat running for, I believe, governor last go around, whose name was Beto. And Beto gained a lot of ground. A lot of people voted Democrat, and it might be people who have never voted before that did come out and vote this time around. It might be people who used to vote one way now are voted a different way. And Texas still won Republican, but to gain that much ground in a historically Republican state was scary for me. So definitely get out and vote. Make sure you do that. But we want to look at the fallacies of their arguments, okay? They want to repeal the Second Amendment. They want to get rid of it. They can do it if they get the votes, because they feel if they remove guns, things will be safer, okay? When I was doing this series with my students, we actually looked up the FBI crime stats, and we actually looked that crime has gone drastically down from what it used to be. They know where the areas are that have high crime still, and most of those places are gun-free areas or places that are very, very hard to get a firearm. Strictest gun laws, but also have a high poverty and addiction problem in their neighborhoods. So places that it's hard for you to get a firearm to defend yourself, where you have a lot of poor people trying to figure out what to do to take care of themselves, and addicts who are just trying to do anything they can to get their next fix, leads to a lot of violence. That just makes sense to me why that would be the problem. Majority of America doesn't have that problem. And then people say, well, what about mass shootings? Okay, well, the way they're trying to put a name to something that's really hard to name, and they feel like if they can put a name to it, it'll be easier to combat. But the terminology for mass shooting means that at least 4 people died as a result of the shooting. So if you have a family of 5, one of the people in the household decides they don't like their family anymore and they kill everybody in the house. Well, to me, that's domestic violence, but that would actually fall under the mass shooting category. You have a guy that walks into a school or a theater that, we've had these public shootings, and I call them public shootings because that's where they're happening. And they fire rounds, but they only kill 1 or 2 people. That's technically not considered a mass shooting. So when it's affecting these crime stats, it's weird how it plays into it. But as a majority, as a whole, over the country, crime is way down. But we still have gun violence. Okay, that makes sense because, that is a means of committing this act. Is it good? No, it's not good. But the majority of these people who are doing these things are obtaining the firearms illegally. When you have a minor shooting something up, okay, minors are not legally allowed to buy firearms, so they had to obtain the firearm illegally, which means either the parent illegally allowed access to their firearm because there is a law that says that you have to reasonably secure your firearm as a responsible gun owner, or they stole it. Criminals are going to do what criminals do. If we just wanted to make laws to get rid of things, well, let's make killing people illegal. Let's make guns being obtained by felons illegal. Let's make drugs illegal. Oh, wait, all those things are already illegal, but they still happen. That's because criminals don't follow laws. So the laws actually hurt your law-abiding citizens. So crime is down. We're statistically safer than we've ever been. Part of that is because President Trump has lowered the unemployment rate. It's the lowest it's been in 40 to 50 years. People have a way to take care of their family. They don't want to screw it up. They're less likely to commit crimes. There you go. But let's just give way to their argument. Let's say it gets the votes it needs. Okay, they want guns removed. That'll make us safer. Okay, let's buy into that argument. Okay, you remove the guns. You have criminals who still want to do what criminals do. So instead of one guy breaking in your door, he's gone to get 5 or 6 friends, and they all have baseball bats and hammers and clubs and machetes or whatever they get their hands on. If they did that to me, I'm going to have a rough time defending myself without a firearm. What about your elderly lady that lives alone because she's a widow? She has no chance now. She has a firearm. She puts it back in her court where she's got home turf advantage. If she's done what she's supposed to as a gun owner, she's got the training and she's practiced. And even if she's not, when she starts pulling that trigger, they're going to be fleeing for their life. They're probably not going to stand and fight. Most criminals are cowards. So there's that situation. We'll point at countries that have done this, okay? So let's look at China. China removes firearms, Triad takes over. England removes firearms, and yes, their firearm crime is down, but they are so much more violent in their statistics than we have ever been. In fact, it's gotten so bad that stabbings are now the problem. They're not shooting each other as much anymore, but now they're stabbing people and cutting people all the time, to where now they're outlawing knives. Well, what happens next? They're going to have to outlaw hammers and baseball bats. They're going to have to outlaw cars. Anything you can use to kill somebody else, because people who are going to be violent are going to find the means. So that didn't work for them. Let's take it the flip side. Let's go to Switzerland, where when you become of age, they issue you a firearm and teach you to use it, and then they encourage you to show up to the world's largest shooting competition every year, just so you can get your practice in and show that you're still able to use it. You know, there were 2 countries that declared neutrality, to my knowledge, during World War II. Switzerland, and then I can't remember the other one, but I know that they did declare it. You can Google it. I'm not teaching history today. But Switzerland was strong enough, Nazis didn't try them. The other country was not strong enough, Nazis took them over. So Switzerland's model is everybody has a firearm, and it is a weapon of war. They're issuing them the current army firearm for their country to keep in their house, and that way they can raise an army really fast if they need to, like what we used to do with our Minutemen. And their crime stats on gun violence and violent crime are so low. When you put what does happen in a statistical equation, it comes up as 0. There is small occurrences that happen, but it's so minute and rare that you can't even pull statistics on it. So, what's the answer? If we can't just take the guns away, how do we make people safer? Well, we address the poverty, we address the addiction, and then You actually write laws that penalize people for violating these things. If you murder somebody, it shouldn't matter how old they were. It shouldn't matter how many times you've done it. If you went out and just murdered somebody just because, you need a very strict consequence. If you obtain a firearm illegally and commit a crime with it, you need a very, very strict consequence. Penalize the people breaking the law. Make the punishment so severe that it's an actual deterrent from breaking the law. You know, I'm a school teacher, so in my school, you know, you've got your good kids, you've got your kids who don't act well. I don't say bad kids. But you've got the kids who don't act well. And, you know, they took away paddling out of a lot of schools. In Texas, you can still paddle, but it's the choice of your district. And then to further step down, it's the choice of the person administering the discipline. So you take the paddles away. Well, some of those kids wanted to go to ISS, inter-school suspension. They wanted to get suspended and go home because they didn't want to be in the classroom. But you couldn't have them in the classroom because they were being too disruptive. So the punishment was not a consequence. They didn't care about the consequence, so they committed rule violations on a regular basis. The only ones that they did care about is when we had to get law enforcement involved and actually put them in handcuffs. So how do you deter gun violence and other criminal activity? You make the punishment severe enough that people don't want the punishment. Death penalty is alive and well in Texas. Is that an answer to everything? No. But I think we should use it more often. If you sexually molest and rape a child, you need the death penalty. If you murdered people and you get first-degree murder, you deserve to be executed. We don't need you in our society more. Society is getting full as it is with people who are law-abiding citizens. Why put the taxpayers through it? Why put the victims of that crime through you still being alive and even having a chance to get out? Don't deserve it. So, to me, the answer isn't let's remove the firearms. And it's actually showed that with more firearms in public hands than ever, crime's gone down because people know that people can defend themselves and people will defend themselves. So, thank you again for tuning into Red Dirt Outdoorsman. I hope that this has been helpful to you. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments. But that's really going to be the end of my series because I feel that that's been the main issues that I've seen when talking to people who only get what they know from the media. So, I mean, you can break down now the Bill of Rights and what they mean. You can break down the definitions and the inaccuracy in the words that are being used. And now, you know that, China and England got rid of firearms, but they got worse. They're more violent than us. Crime is rampant. Switzerland, different model, basically no crime. So you can, adequately have some of these conversations now. Is that the end of what I think you should be educating yourself? No. There's tons of guys that do this professionally all day long for a living. Coleon Noir does by far the best job that I've seen. Check his channel out if you haven't seen it already. He's got a show on NRA TV. If you have that, tune into him. I don't know him, haven't talked to him, but he just, I believe, does a very, very good job of explaining what's going on and breaking things down for people. This has just been my effort to try and help with some of that. So, again, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Share the video, like the video, and come back next time for Red Dirt Outdoorsman. We're taking my scouts to summer camp soon, and we may be pulling some footage off of that because we'll be doing kayaking and fishing and swimming and setting up tents. So I might throw more toward the just outdoors side since I'll be dealing with the Scouts BSA. So come back next time. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again next time on Red Deer Outdoorsman.